When it comes to building mobility and strength in our elbow, we want to work on things like pronation and supination because that really targets the deep tissues of the elbow joint. This exercise is going to be an end range liftoff for pronation, which is going to be this movement. Because it's an end range liftoff, we're trying to grab a little bit more of your passive range of motion that you just don't have strength or control in yet. So for this exercise, you're going to grab a yoga block or a towel to keep your elbow at your side so we don't have your shoulder compensating, and if it does, the yoga block will fall out or you'll be able to tell because you lose pressure there. So we want to keep that glued. We want the elbow at about 90 degrees here. You can also do this straight in the same way, but we have to be really careful about not compensating here. This is just a little bit easier to build some of that strength and mobility without compensating in the shoulder. Then you're going to take a dowel rod, PVC pipe, or broomstick, whatever you have that's nice and sturdy. You're going to make sure that you are gripping it really strong. And then from there, we are going to start in full range pronation. So we're going to start here with our hand facing down, our palm facing down. You're going to then pull yourself into pronation as far as you can. Now, the goal is to find a position that is challenging, but you're still able to do the movement. The movement is going to be finding close to your end range position. So this is my end range, but I can't control or do anything here. So you want to find that position that's closest to the end range. So that would be here, or here, or here, or here, or here, wherever it is that you're still able to do the movement, which is this. Notice how it's very subtle. It should be very minimal. If you can lift a lot, then you're either compensating or you are in too far back of a position, you want to go closer. So find that position by playing around with a couple options. What you're trying to think about is turning your forearm down to the ground more. You're going to feel a lot of the inside elbow stuff kind of contract to do that. You might feel this stuff stabilizing, which is okay, but we just shouldn't feel it moving a lot. So again, find that end range where you can perform the movement. Lift off. So this should lift off your hand, slightly hold for that 3 to 5 seconds, and then return back slowly. Now this should not look like a really big movement and then coming back. That just shows me that you're using a lot of momentum. We're not necessarily going to get as much out of the exercise. It really should be a find those tissues, which are the inside elbow muscles, contract and ramp them up until you're able to float the pipe or the broomstick off your hand, and then hold for the prescribed amount of time, and then slowly control the reset back and do it all over again. So depending on what your program calls for, you're probably going to do sets of like 3 to 5, maybe a little bit more depending on the day, but that's going to be your end range liftoff for your elbow pronation. Over time, you should feel like you can get closer and closer to the end range or your passive range of motion, which shows you are turning all of that movement, all of that ranges of motion into active usable mobility, and you're building a lot of good, strong tissue in your elbow, which is always what we want over time. So try to progress your positions, try to progress where you're able to do the liftoffs at, and that'll be a sign that you are gaining more mobility in your elbow.